Hello and welcome to Echo Unplugged. I am your host, Dr. Antonio Schroeder, um, along with my host, my co-host, and dynamic roundtable dialogue. Stay tuned. We will be back.
Echo Unplugged.
Hello, everyone. I'm delighted for you guys to join us tonight for this discussion. As the creator of Echo Sound Podcast Studios, I envision this podcast, which is Echo Unplugged, a space where we have multiple voices coming together, each adding their unique perspectives and honest and unfiltered dialogue. We believe in exploring diverse and narratives that empowers genuine connections and conversation. And so we're going to dive right in. Today, I do have with us Dr. Well, I was going to call him Doc, Mr. Doc Prince. Um, a pleasure to have him on as our host. Also, we have Mr. Randolph, and I was going to call him Randolph Joseph. But it's a pleasure for you guys to be on here tonight. Always a pleasure. I'm so excited about what we're going to dive in tonight. I think from our last discussion, we was transitioning from this powerful discussion, and tonight I want to kind of dive into a Q&A session where we're going to dive into a table conversation. Where I think the last time we was talking about servitude and self-identity, and also from covenant love and covenant relationships, I think is very important. So we want to expose different between like performance and purpose, And so we've talked along those lines about the danger of serving from emptiness. I think emptiness is something to where it depends on the person, and their variations of what they think happiness is. Some people, they may think the smallest thing count. Some people need something where they have to have a whole conglomerate of different things going on. And so now I want to be able to us to shift tonight because it's not just a monologue, but it must become a dialogue, because I really believe that the real transformation doesn't just come from listening, but it comes from reflecting. Like looking back over our lives, we can say, you know what, I can reflect and wrestling with the truth in the community. So like, how do the community see you? How do the community see you? Like, how do the community see yourself? How do you see yourself in the community? And so I want to open up the floor. And so I want to say to the audience, this is your space, not my space. This is your space. This is your moment. Your voice matters here tonight. Yeah, we talked y'all to death last time. But tonight we want to talk to you. We want you guys to talk to us. You are the fourth voice. So it's a space here for questions, insight, and even when it comes down to disagreements, I think that's important. So with that being said, those disagreements are also invited, but at the same time, we must be able to really ask these tough questions. So that the question is, how do you serve when you're hurting? What if the identity feels lost in the relationship? You thought you knew who you was until you got married. You thought you thought you had everything all penned out, until you got married. You can survive. Can you survive without reciprocity or to a point, to a standpoint? So these are questions. What does covenant really looks like in today's culture? And so these are questions that I feel that we want to begin to dive in tonight, because we are not just hosting a podcast, but we want to build space where hearts are examined, you know, wounds are addressed. Yes, stop hiding. You hiding. We not going to hide tonight. We want to expose these things. You know, it's very, very important. So let this session be more than just commentary, but let this be a community with, and take a breath, you know, because I really believe that this is going to be a moment where it's going to really be good. So with that being said, you guys, how you doing, brothers?
Good, good, good.
How
Thanks
you
for
feel?
having me. I feel good. I feel well.
Good, good. So I guess the question is, because some people wasn't in the discussion last time. You know, we was talking about variations of different things, and so we can kind of go from different angles, but kind of, you know, do a little overview, if you will. And I cannot
Okay.
wait to talk to the people. I cannot wait for the people to talk to me. Like, yo, we want to hear from you tonight. Real talk. Those questions, and listen, I hate to say no filter, but we really want to be able to answer those questions. And so the question is, what is servitude in your mind, my brother? Brothers, as far as servitude, like what, like how should it be implemented from the last discussion, so we can be able to have this type of dialogue. And you guys, please tag and share into these groups if y'all can. Tag and share within the groups if you can. Let's turn these and bring these numbers up real quick. But I appreciate you guys for your support. Go ahead, you brothers.
Well, I took the idea. It looked like it was a combination of two words, to serve and attitude. So I guess it's an attitude of service, and I guess, a positive feeling that comes with serving. And having a cheerful heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to serve, but to serve with a cheerful heart
Yeah.
and disposition. That's the you know you know not merely just because it's an obligation, but because you understand, you understand the purpose
Yeah.
and that such a service has, for yourself or your partner, and
Right.
for uh bigger and larger things like legacy.
Right.
That's what I took from that's what I took from it.
Serving. So servitude is essentially legacy, right? Like.
um that Yes, ultimately, but legacy is something. I think, it's it's an ideal, but that's something that comes. We may not be around to see that fulfillment, but
Right.
it's the but it gives life a purpose.
Right. It gives life meaning. Right. What you think, Doc?
Mm.
I think he defined it well. I just add to that.
Hmm.
I think it encompasses, it's action.
Mm.
Um, it's something that we usually use the term submission in the context of relationships when we're talking about servitude,
Right.
talking about submission. And so submission it's an action, but it's an act of the will. It's something we willingly choose to do,
Right.
as opposed to, which I talked about the last broadcast, as opposed to subjection. The difference between submission is something I in agreement with, I
Right.
will to do and I want to do, as opposed to subjection,
Mm-hmm.
something I don't will to do and I don't want to do, but I choose to do. And
Mm.
so it doesn't necessarily have to have good feelings with it. It's something I do out of responsibility or out of obligation.
So
And so, go ahead.
so is it safe to say that even though it is something that you probably don't want to do in certain levels, is that healthy? Is that healthy to serve someone or something when they are not lining up, or it's not alignment?
Well, I would say because that gets into because there's several ways you can answer that. That's not just one way you can answer that. So
Yeah.
if in the context of covenant, right? And this is what we talked about before. And so when I say covenant, I'm specifically referring to the marriage covenant. So when I say covenant, that's what I'm referring to. I'm not referring to two people just living together. I'm not referring to when I'm speaking that in relation to the a marriage relationship.
Right.
So in the context of a husband and a wife, there are going to be times when you have to make a choice for or towards your partner because it is responsible. You're doing it out of responsibility. You're
Right.
doing it because it's necessary. And even though you may not want to do it, and we can go through several examples of that, but just simply put, to answer the question, you choose to do it. But in the context of that, that is a I would say that is a healthy yielding. That's a necessary yielding. Same
Right.
thing with a parent and a child. The child may not want to obey, but the child chooses to obey and chooses to yield their will out of responsibility or out of necessity. Sometimes it's immaturity. Sometimes it's ignorance. Sometimes so there are several reasons and several different aspects as to why someone may not want to do it, but that doesn't mean they should not do it, as opposed
Right.
to situations where, let's say, you're in a relationship that's abusive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're in a relationship where you're being manipulated and controlled, um, whether that's a marriage, whether that's an unhealthy prostitution, sex trafficking, that type of thing. So there are different types of dynamics we can talk about, um, then you're going to have several different issues as it relates to pertain to that. So I think it depends on the situation.
Right. Right. Now listen, yo, hey, you guys in the audience, listen, viewers, feel free to throw some bombs out there, some questions, throw it out there. This is a Q&A dialogue. So
Yeah,
I just,
I think we got one from somebody here.
okay,
Okay,
Um, yeah,
bring it on.
Yumika
Okay,
Brandon. She
okay,
said, so this is for whoever wants to take it. She says,
okay,
if I can't listen to him, I can't marry him. If I marry him, I'm going to listen and he will be in trouble with God. But there are detrimental situations. I'll read it again. If I
okay,
can't listen to him, I can't marry him. If I marry him, I'm going to listen and he will be in trouble with God. But there are detrimental situations.
okay. Well, okay, let's unpack it. So she said if I can't listen to him, essentially she can't marry him. So I take that to mean that if she can't listen to him, meaning he's not it sounds like such a person is not worthy to her. If he's not worthy, if he's not if he doesn't command the kind of respect necessary, you know, for for if she doesn't feel she respects him,
right.
and she won't listen to him, so there's no reason to marry. Now, the second part of it is, could you repeat that?
Sure.
Um,
She says if I marry him, I'm going to listen
okay,
and he will be in trouble with God.
okay, and he will be in trouble with God.
So
Hmm.
I don't want to be a devil's advocate,
Okay. Mhm.
but I'm one, but let me that can that can that can verse that can go in a couple different ways, because
Yeah.
sometimes maybe the woman may want him to abide by her in that sense and use God in it. So to be fair, I get the concept of what she's saying, definitely. So just like, yeah, like if they're not hearing from God, they're not hear. But majority of the time, let's be real, we marry, like women marry or we choose our spouse or decide to choose our spouse based off of our own likings, our own, certain variations of it. They gotta have a job, good, look good, go to church, this, that, and the third. So there are like levels to it to them in their mind, or they're good listeners or whatever the case may be. But it depends on the situation, because when he said it does not, he does not. You're saying that she's saying that he doesn't listen or doesn't
Well,
listen to God.
she's responded. So let me give her response to her question.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me give her response to her
Good.
statement because she really didn't ask the question. Her response is, I guess this is tagging on what she meant by um, him being in trouble with God. I guess her response is in alignment with God. I can't marry him. And then her second response is in trouble with God if he directs us wrong. It's
Right.
not my responsibility.
Right.
Sometimes things don't show up until after I do. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm like you. I'm listening to the statements and the responses. I guess I have a question, and Yumika, maybe you can add answer the question. I guess my question is, and I could be wrong. I don't know you, so
Right.
I don't know where this is coming from. But it sounds like you've had some really bad experiences, and it sounds like there may be some historical stuff, maybe even some trauma, maybe even some abuse from the past, just because of some of the stuff that you're saying. And granted, that's real because we all have stuff like that. We all
Right.
have
To
that. We've
protect
all
ourselves.
gone through that type of stuff. Um, I guess I would I can't really, I'm not going to say I'm going to answer what you say. I'm just going to add some color to what you're saying and just say that
Mhm.
I think a lot of it has to do with the foundation of what's being built.
Right.
Um, what because it because once again, in any relationship, um, you're going to have um, you're never going to know everything about everybody. So in the context of any relationship, yeah, after you're married, yeah, other aspects, other things are going to show up. That's
Right.
true. So, but I think that, um, yeah, I guess I'm more curious as to your train of thought and your way of
Okay.
thinking
Yeah. Go ahead,
as
Joseph.
to
Okay.
why that's your, yeah,
Mhm.
but let me read something else.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is so I've got two people. Victorious Eve, blessings, Victorious Eve. She says, I think if a woman says that she can't listen, there's a level of disconnect in communication and understanding of one another.
Right.
And I agree with that.
I
I agree
agree with
with that.
that too.
And then
Definitely.
Sean McCullough, bless
Okay,
you,
Sean.
Sean. Sean says listening is hearing and hearing is understanding.
That's good.
Um,
That's good.
and and then I got one more. Sybil Gale, hello, God bless you, Sybil Gale. She says, I just had a phrase introduced to me. I realized I was walking in how dare they mode rather than a healthy yielding, as Doc just said. But we as believers walk according to the word with them, esteeming others more than ourselves, that we choose to not live in offense with them.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, pride gets involved, leading
Mm-hmm.
to offense. God exposed it to me, and now I work on me with others.
And I get it. And this is the thing about it, because what time frame does a person say I can't listen to you? Because a person, it depends. It depends on the situation, because if you are discovering through your communication or relation or courting state, obviously you're going to begin to see red flags if a
Yeah,
Okay,
person's
well here,
being, if a person's
yeah.
bucking.
I, I have to admit, it almost it almost sounds as if the way the question was stated, it's almost as if she's found a convenient scapegoat, in a husband. Like, okay, well, so there, since you're signing on, okay, and I've picked you as a husband, fine, you're married. At this point now, it's all on you. Your soul be damned for whatever goes wrong. But my slate is pretty much clean,
Right.
and it just took on
Yeah.
that kind of feel.
well,
Is it just
no,
is it just
I
me?
no, I actually I have a response from her, and
Okay.
I'll go ahead and read her response, and it's 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 um it's right in the lines of what I was kind of sensing, but I'll just read it and to
Yeah.
blow. You can hear her words.
Mm-hmm.
She said, 13 years divorced from a
Okay.
minister, so
Mm.
in the church is not a requirement.
Mm-hmm.
None of us are perfect, but definitely some trauma. But we stay, submit, and sometimes it's not safe anymore. Okay. And so, yeah, I, once again, I think with, um, every situation, and this is, now I know a lot of people struggle with it, but I'm an advocate for, counseling. And I say counseling of any kind,
Right.
any kind of counsel or therapy, only because sometimes it's good for us to be able to talk out some of the things that we're going through. I'm like you, Mika. I'm divorced, so I understand that dynamic. I understand even coming into a marriage with with certain levels or aspects of trauma, whether it's myself or whether it was my ex-wife or whoever, right? Um, and but it's also understanding that um, when we come into certain spaces, we can't come into those spaces with our guards up, right? And so
Yes,
I
we
think a
can.
lot of that has to do with the investigative part. And
Yeah.
so, tr- foundationally, in order to be in a healthy relationship, you have to have trust, you have to have vulnerability, and you have to be able to communicate. You don't have those three things, you can forget it. And
Yeah,
so
you
if
can
you're
hang it up.
coming in and you're already questioning, like there are aspects of like, I don't know if I can trust, then that, I mean, it's already doomed
It's
before
already
it
damned.
starts.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So a lot of it is, and this is for, I'm speaking in relation to what you said, and I'm glad you said what you said, but also realizing that we have to start at the foundation. And 9 times out of 10, if we're honest, um, a lot of times when we get to the root of the thing, of the problem and the issue, we can see ourselves in it. And
Yes.
so I always say
Absolutely.
we have to be you. It's never this person did all this and they. I promise you,
It's
if we do the
it,
proper processing and we
assessment.
get to the root of it, and we're
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, what's really going on?
Yeah.
A lot of time there are aspects um, in us where we have obviously allowed it, because we have to now ask ourselves, why did I allow that? Or why did I not see that?
Yeah.
Or why did I overlook that?
Right.
There's some reasons why we were okay with certain things.
Right.
And we all kind of have a sense. I don't want to get too deep with it, but I think I appreciate your response. I'll let one of the other brothers respond. I think
Hmm.
I'm
Which
not sure if Randolph, you
yeah,
want
I
to say
think Randolph,
something.
you had something right.
Yeah, I mean, like it makes me think of like how since uh since kind of like the Bible's been invoked a bit. Like you figure there's a God that punishes, and then and I guess is if you and and where he could punish, instead he forgives, and for that, by virtue, people respect God.
Right.
And then even in spite of, you know, not in spite of it, but and by virtue of that respect, in spite of maybe violating um violating commandments and things like that, and being forgiven, and still gives. And so he's, say God is loving. So
Right.
it's interesting how she was talking about, you know, the most base level of what God does is punish. You know what I mean? But that's not like, the most important thing is, God is loving. So it's very interesting how, well, hey, he'll have, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, God punishes, but that's not you. You want the bounty, and you want all the blessings and all the good things that come with love. I mean, we know, that God punishes, I guess, from that kind of standpoint. So it's kind of interesting, that she focused on God, the avenger and the
Right.
wrathful side of God, versus the
Yeah, it
God,
kind.
the giver, and
Yeah, yeah,
whatnot. Like,
yeah. And you know what?
like God is an attack, like an attack, as a vessel, as
That's good.
you
That's
know.
good, Joseph. Joseph, you're right, and I think that without knowing, because of our environment and where we came from, we can come off as being that God will avenge my emotion or
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
avenge what I have been going through. and
Mm-hmm.
and God is never in the business of him just justifying your flesh or even justifying the situations, even though the Bible says vengeance is mine. but but
Mm-hmm.
but it's all about growth, right? It's all about,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, what have I gained from this? What
Mm-hmm.
have I evolved from the pain, and am I fully have I fully discovered deliverance? Have I fully
Right, right,
discovered healing, like
right.
mentally? And
Yeah,
and so
you got a lot of responses too here, Dr. Schroeder. Let me yeah,
go
this
ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I like.
since y'all have been talking, it's been blowing up.
Oh,
So
go ahead. Oh,
Okay.
bring it on.
let me read the responses. So I'm gonna go back to I'm gonna read
Oh wow.
I'm gonna read her responses, and then I'm gonna
Okay.
go back and read some other
Yeah.
responses people said. So um Yumika, thank you, Yumika. She said, Yumika
Thank
Brandon,
you.
she said, Amen. Yes, we have to be vulnerable to admit to things and also heal.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
also says, being in trouble with God is love, LOL. Now, some of the other
Mhm.
responses are from um, Sybil Gale. Sybil Gale says, always be led by the Spirit, give your
Yeah.
heart. Stacy English, bless you, Stacy English. She says, face the issues. And she also says, don't ignore what is unhealthy.
That's it.
Victorious Eve says, facts. Tamisha Gouldsby, blessings, Tamisha. She says, amen, agree. Sybil Gale also added, cannot, must not. Stacy English added, then God's grace is sufficient. God brings correction to grow us, and forgiveness is the beginning of deliverance. Um, and Victoria's last statement, she says that part. Deliverance is absolutely essential. If not broken, people will only hurt one another. And I know Dr. Schroeder, you were going to say something. I just want to add, but that's what I was sensing, um,
Yeah.
just in reading it. And I love how Randolph addressed
Yes.
the
Perfect. It's
it
perfect.
was, and that's what I was struggling with when I was reading it. It's like it's it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
emphasis of what was her main
Yeah.
focus in what she was saying. And
Right.
so once
Right.
again, I want to be sensitive and compassionate and
Yes.
understanding and saying,
Yes.
yeah, I'm sure there was some hurt. Yeah, I'm sure there was some trauma. I'm sure, but coming into these spaces, there has, especially we're talking about relationship and more specifically marriage. There has to be an openness. There has to be a vulnerability,
Absolutely.
and even in the worst situations where, um, and I want to say this the right way. One one partner in the relationship may have um, a little more maybe to focus and work on. That doesn't exclude us as the other partner in the relationship from working on some things.
Come on, brother.
Now I'm going to make a statement.
Come on, bro.
When I went through my divorce, well, let me back that up. Before I experienced and I went through my divorce, yeah, I was saying a whole lot of stuff because I was still in it, okay, and in
Right.
therapy, okay. But when I walked away from it, um, I walked away from it clear I had to ask myself some hard questions. And at the end of the day, the focus was all about me. It had really nothing to do with her. Um, and that was a process that was important for me to go through.
Right.
Because once again, I think a lot of times, it's easy to um, it's easy to create a villain, you know. It's hard a lot of times, and I want to say this jokingly
Right.
and lightheartedly. It's kind of like your typical prophet. They can rebuke everybody else and tell everybody else about what's wrong in their life, but when it comes to holding them accountable and holding their feet to the fire, oh,
That's
you
real.
can't tell me nothing.
That's real.
You
That's
can't
real.
speak into my life. You can't tell me this and this and this and this and this. No. No, just as much as you dish it out, you should be able to take
You
it,
got
and
to
not just
receive it.
take it, but say yes, amen, and can I have some more, please? Praise the Lord, amen.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Dr. Schroeder.
No, no, I agree, and the accountability aspect where the awareness of our hurt and so it can be defined because our language betrays us a lot of
Yes,
times and not even knowing it and I understand the defense, whereas God's going to get him. This is my boundaries. This is what I'm not going to stand for. And they put all of this, which is fine, right? Where we have areas where we feel that is accessible or is respectful or received from the person that is in expectation. However, you cannot, get to a point to where you kind of put yourself into this little box where at the end of the day, if it does not come in a frame where I feel is healthy or allegedly protecting something, then I don't want. I'm going to just gut out the whole building. Like I'm gutting out the walls. I'm gutting out the rooms. Everything dies. You just go into war, and I'm like, hold on, it's friendly fire within your delivery. Like at the end of the day, there are areas to where you have to learn. There's areas where you have to get it too. Like it can't be something to where everybody is like you're the teacher because you have experience of hurt. But could it be that there were more flaws with your judgments, and now you're sitting there because I'm experienced? No, because you've dropped the balls more than the person, but you're still wounded. So
But you know what? I love that. I love that.
how can
Yeah, you got look. They blowing it up. I gotta get the
I'm
comments in.
just saying.
oh my.
I'm
I
just
was
Yeah,
gonna
I
saying.
kind of, I
No,
yeah.
I agree. I was going to say this. I was going to say this earlier. Do you want to be right or do you want to be righteous? And because that's really what it comes in. There's a sense in this. It's hard for us to hear this sometimes, but
Right.
sometimes we want what we want,
Right.
and that attitude is
Right.
simply pride. We want what we want.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
and
but
and,
that's
and
but
rightfully so.
and rightfully so. But the way we're
No,
the way we're conditioned, the way
Right.
we're conditioned
yeah,
in it sounds good, but it doesn't work very well in the dynamic of a Christian covenantal relationship. It just doesn't. But let me get these comments, and then I'm gonna let
okay,
y'all jump on
Joseph, I
in.
think you
Okay,
got next
so
too, so you flow. But go ahead,
okay.
go ahead, Doc.
yeah, so oh, Minister Whaley, God bless you, Von Whaley. She says accountability. Okay, Stacy English, she had a few things to say. She said, after divorce, I saw in many ways I could have addressed the issues differently that would have yielded a healthy relationship.
Mm.
Take ownership. take ownership of your part. Then she says, humility is not a sign of weakness.
Mm,
Um,
Wow.
Victorious Eve said, healing and understanding where we play the part in a situation that goes left is key. Sean McCullough, she said, so true, Apostle Schroeder, Stacey English, right? And then Tamisha Goolsby stated, I had to learn that the common denominator is self. Even
mm.
in bad relationships, we must take account for our own part in things. We all come up short, learn and grow. Let me just see. Oh, Yumika, she responded. Okay. And she says, Yumika's response is everyone's specific situation is different, but the initial convo was on submission, how we look at it, how we respond to it and see it. God went to Adam, not Eve. He is consistent. So women have to go in listening closely. Okay, I know, and I'm
I could,
sure you have
Joe,
something to say on that, Randolph.
Randolph.
Go
Well,
ahead.
okay. There's some sometimes I'm thinking about relationships right now. And marriage is just the ultimate relationship, right? Because there's covenant with it. But
Mm-hmm.
in the initial phase, and I'm still going back to what the viewer said about about if I can't listen to them, I can't marry them. And you know, you've heard of putting your best foot forward. Typically, how you start might be how you finish, really. How you start in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like the idea of starting treating someone like or treating a potential mate like what they potentially could be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
But is that fake?
they're not they're no, I don't view it as fake. I mean, because you know what I will call it? I'll call it a legal fiction. Just like you're
I
innocent
love
until proven guilty, right? Okay.
a legal fiction.
I'm gonna give you that. You didn't even deserve it, but I'm gonna give you that.
Credit.
I'm going to treat you like your potential self.
I love it.
And you may not be that to me at that
Mm-hmm.
moment,
Mm-hmm.
but I will treat you like the lady I see you to,
Right.
to be in my
But
future.
but but isn't that any relationship?
It, but
That's
guess
any
what?
that's any relate. I mean,
Doc,
I
Doc,
and I'm not challenging
Doc,
you. I'm just
I
throwing
know.
it out
Doc,
for the.
Doc, Doc
But
Prince,
isn't that any
we
relationship?
we
Like,
we
I mean,
that's what we would hope, that's what we would like. But I'm gonna be honest, there's such a thing as uncommon common sense. It might have been common sense in a time long ago, but it's long since become uncommon. Okay, to where people can't even remember when it's like that. You know what I just saw the other day in the park? I
oh
saw a
Lord.
couple I saw a couple in a park in Montebello with uh with a cloth and a picnic basket. Actually, I mean, you know, black, Latino love, just two people of color just having a good time with each other. I haven't seen that in a park in a long time. Maybe that's because of COVID, COVID in our past, but I haven't seen that in a long time. Black love,
Right.
okay? And you know what I mean? Just two people being intimate and enjoying each other's company in the midst of nature and
Right.
and all this whatever. You know what I mean? But
Okay, I think you said something key.
mhm,
How you start is how you usually how you finish.
Right.
And I
mhm.
think your comment. I think now we got a lot of responses. I just got to get through the
Woo!
responses
Bring it.
because
Uh-oh.
when you came in, it just I think it
You
just
started
opened
something,
up the
Randolph.
floodgates. Okay, so and keep in mind we're still and once again let me say this. I'll
Mm,
say this for the group. You know, we're just
okay.
you Mika, Brandon. We appreciate your input and we know that this is not we're speaking in relation to you only because you posed you made the comment and but this can apply. This is applying to all of us. It's applying
Yes,
to everybody
absolutely.
that's on. So we're not just responding
Oh yes.
directly
Yeah,
to you.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah.
lay that as a foundation.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but
Please.
but let me read this. Victorious Eve said, "I want to be righteous in the eyes of God. Period. That may very well require repentance." Stacy English says each person has to submit. Ultimately, we both submit to the will of God.
Okay.
Sybil Gale says, I feel that if we could see what we could have done differently while going through issues in the marriage, how many marriages could be healed, restored? I agree with that. But it is difficult to see areas where growth is needed. The pain is too much.
Mm-hmm.
How could they come into play? Fighting to stay is much harder than letting go when there is the constant feeling of failure. That's
Right.
that's
Woo.
good, Sybil.
That's good stuff.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Avery Gilmore. God bless you, Avery. Good to have you on. He says, can't you pray and speak life into what someone can potentially be? And that's kind of the point I was making. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. Stacy English says, the husband is to love his wife as Christ loved the church.
Right.
First one has to first one has to understand the love. Oh, first one has to understand the love of Christ. Okay. And then Yumika, she responded, I married potential. The root word to date is data. Some data is scary, especially when you're raising kids.
Listen.
Okay. So that's yeah, that
Listen.
sounds like there's a lot there.
Listen.
Yeah, you got a lot of responses. I got two more responses.
Okay.
Yumika, she continued, she says, I love it. I'm learning, open to dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina Carter, bless you, Christina Carter, she says, generational trauma and traditions come into play as well, such as patterns and abuse, as well as cycles that are masked at first, but
Mm.
eventually the mask comes off.
Right.
Oh
Okay,
my
go ahead.
God.
Go ahead,
So
So,
Dr.
true.
Schroeder.
so I do
Woo.
believe in speaking things into existence, but we have to be careful because oftentimes we're trying to speak things into existence, and we are. What happens is, I think a lot of us are we we are believing something which is very healthy and is biblical. However, some things can come from a core that we so deem or desire that is not necessarily in the best interest of our spiritual foundation and DNA. In other words, you may want the roughneck, or you not even that, because I think that's just I think that's basic. You may want this guy because he just light skinned, he good looking, he has good hair, whatever, whatever the case may be, or he has swag, or he's a little street, or he's churchy, or whatever the case may be. And you are designed, but that thing is, you are missing, because just
Okay.
because he looks appealing and
Yeah.
fits your comfortability, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that he is your husband, and or vice versa,
Yeah.
wife. And I'm gonna say this too.
Okay.
Just because what happens is we put everybody in this bracket, right? She's there, and that mirrors that too, and this person mirrors the same, and so they're in the same bracket. But just because they're in the same bracket doesn't mean that they have the nutrients to minister to you, so that you can be able to move forward in what it is that you need to do. So
Okay.
so
No,
so
that's
so
right
so
on.
so in essence, we are staging people in this, I call it this cookie cutter structure, and now we're trying to fit something in it, and really certain things are strategic, right? It's strategic, and so we don't spend the time out or be patient enough to assess the red flags. So we
And
just dive right
sometimes,
in it, and dive
but
in
see,
because she, you know, because You got the influences of your girlfriends or your church
Wow.
or your community, and say,
But let
oh,
me
and or your parents. They may say, hey, he's a good guy. He's a good
yeah.
woman. And
But let
what's
me, can I jump
happening
in here?
is
Can I
we
jump in here?
hold on. That's the reason why I'm throwing it out there. So this is why we suffer from proper assessment, not running away, but really seeing, does this person carries the nature of my culture and or what I'm built on, because I'm gonna need a strong this or a fortified that or a sensitive person as it relates to hearing me in certain specifics. So that's the reason why I say that, even though, okay, I'm gonna throw it out there. I just dive it out there. Y'all go ahead, run with it.
Okay. Go ahead, Doc Prince.
I'm gonna just say this. This is what happens when we lack communication. This is part of the problem of failed relationships because we come in with false expectations. We come into a relationship with our checklists. And when you don't
Checklist,
measure up to my checklist,
right?
then you know what? Well, since you didn't check off this. Well, you know what? That's it. I'm done.
Right.
No. And here's the thing: the development of relationship through fellowship and intimacy is this is the knowing, right? This is the getting to know. And so in understanding and getting to know a person, you have to come open. This is why you can't come with your fist up, because you could be rejecting the very thing that God has assigned for you to help you to grow. That's actually, it's like, and I'm just using this as an example. Most of us, we church folk, so we have an image and a and the identity of spirituality.
Like
So we
like he
see
said,
somebody and we go,
ideal.
right,
Like,
right, because I want to go back, so they're a minister, they're an elder, they're a bishop, they sing on the worship team. So you see the anointing, but you don't know them. You got to take time to get to know them. And there may be aspects of their character
come on, brother.
that is like, whoa.
Yep.
So like the first, I've had this conversation with many women. The first time, you interact with a man, and because of certain qualities he possesses, but the first time he stands in his maleness and he addresses you from the space of being all man, and I'm not talking about disrespect. I'm not talking about. I'm just saying there is something that he speaks with a level of authority.
Right.
If you're not, if once again, you got to know, this goes back to the trust. This goes back to the vulnerability. This
Come on.
goes back to the communication.
Come on.
He's not trying to hurt you.
Mm.
This is him raising up in protection for you.
Right.
But because you're not used to a man talking to you strong, you take it as he's abusive.
He's
He's not
abusive.
being abusive. I'm just using that as an example. Okay. Once again, because of expectations. Once again, but this goes back to why that communication, the getting to know in the beginning, the root, that breaking down. So let me. Okay. Oh Lord.
But Joseph, you were about to say something too. Like, just go ahead.
Go ahead, Joseph. Go ahead, Joseph.
Oh wow.
Because I got a lot to read, but go ahead.
You know what? Go ahead and read it, because I have so many things that I could say. But read something for me, Doc.
Okay. Yeah, there's a few. Okay, so we're going way back. Okay, Yumika, she says, "Come, give me the short, imperfect, Jesus-loving man with character and servitude in God, not just in church." Come on. So Christina Carter, we got a lot of fire emojis, key emojis, speaking emojis. Tamisha Goolsby says, honestly, I cannot marry my potential of a person, what I see or want to see. I just do not agree with that. I can marry the potential of what God has said concerning the individual. That is different to me. Yes, I agree with that because it's got to be, once again, this goes back to the foundational communication you got to have to understand who the person is. Okay, Stacy English says you cannot ignore the red flags. Christina Carter says that's
Yeah.
right, our flesh. Sybil Gale says yes, even in the body, looks good in ministry, talks word, more than
Yeah,
that for
yeah,
covenant. Many get tripped up.
yeah.
Okay, Christina Carter, fire emojis. Stacy, speak apostle. Tanya Fry, welcome Tanya Fry. Good to have you on. She says it's the heart and not the outward appearance.
Uh-huh.
Stacy says, is this person fit for my purpose? Okay, now there we go. There we go. Yumika Brandon says, yes, Lord. Christina Carter says, our flesh causes us to override the red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And then
That's
let's see. Okay, oh Lord, they blowing up. Victorious Eve says, based on outside appearances, they may not be aligned to my spiritual DNA. Come on. The red flags don't lie. We must see character, not appearances. Stacy
Right.
says, if you do not communicate, the relationship
okay.
will not be fruitful. Okay, and so we got a
Okay.
bunch of amens,
Okay.
amens, amens, amens. Okay, here's
I
a final
definitely.
one. Here's a final one. Yumika Brandon says, real women of God love to see authority. We crave it, but it has to be in a safe
Okay.
space, love. Sybil says, the problem I see is that even believers
Yeah.
make spiritual decisions through fleshly criteria.
Okay.
We meant well, but was not a sound
Okay.
move. Okay.
Okay. Can I look? Okay. Is her name Shamika? Shamika? Was that the original
I think
caller's name? Shamika? Was
um
that was that? I'm sorry. I don't want
I think
to.
it's Tamisha.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Google.
Tamisha. Tamisha. Look, if I
Oh,
treated
Yumika. It was Yumika.
Unica,
Yumika.
I'm sorry, Unica, for not saying your name properly. If I treated that hypothetical individual, female, as her actual self, there might not be a beginning of a relationship. Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Ooh. Ooh. Go
Right.
ahead. Go ahead,
I,
Joe.
I was presented with options. And so, you know, just like the example I was giving, say, for instance, with, say, God, if he just, if God, in that infinite wisdom, if he
Mm-hmm.
just treated us exactly for what we did, he would just straight punish us.
Right.
Even he knows you have the potential to be God fearing and to be whatever. In the same vein and in the same spirit, we have to have, you have to have the ability to see what that person could potentially be to you. Because I know that I may even know myself. I used to be a wretch. And I know that, look, I've come to be what I am. So I know that the way you're presenting yourself to me, there might be many mystical dimensions that make you very special, but you're not allowing that to come through. So I'm going to treat you like what you potentially could be. So I don't,
No, I agree.
you know,
Joe, go ahead, Joe.
yeah, that's just, I mean,
No, no, you have to leave room. You have to leave room for development of courting. This is how you don't skip steps
wow,
because
like that.
it's part
Right.
of your
Right.
development,
Right.
plain and simple. In other words, had I not understand the mystical part of discovering my wife through the milestones, I would not develop and grow.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
You hear?
Y'all, so you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I told bro, listen, you're
Yeah.
there. Like I totally get it. It just
Yeah.
it logically makes sense. It spiritually
Yeah.
makes sense.
If you're
It
locking on the potential, but you're saying, you see, you know what I mean? You
yeah,
don't see,
like
there was other alternative ways that one could take it. See what I'm saying? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
but
it's
So,
and I just want to say this. I was looking at some of the responses. So I think when we say potential, it might mean something different than when
yeah,
women
I
say
think
potential.
so. I think so. And
So
that's why I had to clarify. I had to
well look
clarify.
listen, girl, hey, women of God,
we,
throw it out there. What y'all mean
Yeah, yeah,
potential?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are you
Sure, yes,
saying?
that's right. Mhm.
so when we say potential, we're speaking, and I can say I know what my brothers are saying. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking from the aspect of when you come into it, you're not coming into a relationship perfect. So if you think you're coming into a relationship perfect, you're already in failure.
Yeah,
You already failed,
that's
right?
right.
Because that person, there's something you're going to learn about that person
That's right.
that's beyond what you already know.
Come on,
Yeah,
man.
To
that's right.
happen.
Because that's
And,
right.
and 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 the challenges are necessary so that you can grow. So when we speak concerning potential, we're talking about opportunities for us to grow in the context of this
That's
relationship
good, Doc.
That's right.
through
Well,
through continual fellowship.
Right.
like a mustard seed, like a small little seed, okay,
Right.
that has the potential to be this big, could you know, could create a forest.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Isn't that how legacy works, right?
Th-
Because that's right.
that
It's gonna start. That
legacy. Go ahead. Go ahead. Randolph.
it starts with that genesis. It starts from that footing, that beginning. So
Yes.
you know what I mean. So
Yes.
how you
Absolutely.
start is how you finish. So you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
I mean,
It's important. It's important that we understand that the timing of God. God knows the conclusion. He knows our conclusion. We want to hurry up and to get to the conclusion. And oftentimes that's when we're skipping lanes, we're skipping levels. And what happens is we get drowned out, or
mhm,
we get burnt out, and or we get discouraged because they're not, the person may not necessarily be where you want them to be. But then
that's
we
right.
wind up missing it later, because then they'll be where you desire for them to be, but you didn't have patience because of the hurt and experiences that you've been through. So this is when God really this is when one begin to really deal with themselves and say, hold on, maybe these boundaries is not enough. Is not enough room for me to have faith and believe and to move into without, because that's what to me this is what messes all of us up. And I think that it's like a lot of women are missing out on some good men, and vice versa, because
Yes,
of the
and vice
fact
versa.
about these checklists and these high expectations. And people want to go ahead and knock Kevin Samuels, and I'm his deliveries, can be a bit
Yeah.
much.
Well, Kevin Samuels was Kevin Samuels said, "What's wrong with that plumber? What's wrong with that? You know what I mean, with right, with that apprentice electrician or whatnot,
Right,
or that postal man. I
right,
mean, especially, and his thing was like, especially if your station of life is not too far different. Why are
yeah,
you know what I mean? Why don't you make your expectations more reasonable?
right.
And I kind of like agree with that
Yeah,
kind of
I could take
assessment.
some of that.
So even though I think his a lot of people didn't like his delivery, and I think he was trying to use a type of tough love type type approach.
Yeah, yeah,
What do they call that? Like negative reinforcement, maybe. I don't know what the word would be for it.
yeah.
And
Yeah, somewhat like
that it
that.
might,
Yep.
yeah, and it might have you know uh
Yeah,
so yeah.
and again, again, it varies. So, but Dot, I know it's something. Somebody had a comment. I think it was Dr. Stacy, right?
There was a few comments.
Mhm.
I'll go through them. Christina Carter says, "You must be a healed woman to accept the authority of a man. God
Cool.
walking in his manhood as the leader of his wife." Stacy says, "Sometimes relationships are beneficial to our spiritual growth. We learn how to demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit." Right, Apostle. That's what I said. Christina again says, "A healed man of God that knows who he is way different from a regular man. They are safe to submit. Oops. They are safe to submit to. They protect you, but they do stand up as the head of the family." Uh, Stacy then says, "The key word is we become one. To become has to consist of both persons going through a metamorphosis.
Okay.
And then you
Okay.
Mika Brandon,
I
her
like that
final
word,
statement is,
metamorphosis.
her final statement, Yumika Brandon says, I do understand grace, forgiveness, and growth. Pre-marriage counseling is necessary. Potential is such a wide net. It's different for everyone. Every man needs to be submitted to, and there's a woman who can submit to him, but the next woman may crush him when she doesn't intend to. There's someone for everyone.
Interesting. Any of y'all have any comments on that statement?
Hmm. Yeah, I think there is someone, for everyone. I think just by our genetic design, just by our very genetic design, we're obviously, you know, designed to cleave
So
to
should
the
we
opposite.
lower? So let me ask you something. So should we lower our standard? Is our standard too high? What God has for
Um,
me is for me. You think people are gaslighting that in their flesh or in their own personal?
Absolutely. And
well,
and I and I'm just gonna say this comment, and Randolph, you can have it. I'm gonna just say this. I
mhm,
think people just need to get healed. I think
Boom,
people just need to do a
boom.
lot of self-processing
Yeah,
and
okay.
self-discovery and realize that, and I say now, when I make this statement, I'm included in what I'm saying. Okay.
Hmm.
You ain't all that. Okay. And so I I think
Okay.
I think when we come to the floor, forget about the table, when we come to the floor and we realize that that's it. There's this new show out now. Y'all know I'm not a TV. Well, I don't do a lot of TV. Okay,
Hmm.
but there's I was on YouTube and I saw this and I had to watch it. There's a new program called, I guess it's real popular. It's called Pop the Balloon. Okay,
yeah,
Oh, I've
and what it's
seen that.
okay, and it's a dating show, right?
right.
Now they got different variations of it, but it's black. It's created by black folks, okay?
Yeah,
And
Hmm.
there's a woman that's the host, or depending on the
I've
dynamic, it's
seen
a man that's a host. And so they've got all the ones. Most of the ones I've seen, are the foundational ones, is it's a bunch of women. A man comes out, and so if they
it.
like him, they hold their balloon, and
yeah,
then he asks them questions, and then they respond, and then if they don't like what he's saying, they pop their balloon.
yeah.
I
Mhm.
cannot tell you how many women from the and this is just now, once again, I'm not talking about church folks, I'm not talking about believers. And now sometimes there are people on there that are believers, but
Mm-hmm.
from what I've seen, it's always the same. um, a guy will come out, you have 4 or 5 women, they just all pop their balloons immediately. The guy
Yeah.
hasn't spoken.
Haven't said
They don't
nothing.
know anything. They don't know anything about him. And so then the host comes over. She says, "Well, why did you pop your balloon?" "Well, he's a little bit too short for me." "Well, I tend
Yeah.
to I don't like his color."
Well,
And it's all surfacey. It's
yes.
just dumb stuff. It's
Yes.
like
Yeah.
you,
It,
like
mhm.
you
Give them
didn't
a
even
shot.
Well,
right.
okay. Can I
So
say
so
something?
I so I so I'm just saying this
You have to
as
know your devil.
once again, I want to be careful. I want to be careful how I say this, right?
Okay, well, you know
And
what?
and I'm not
Let's
and
not be careful.
I'm not saying
Let's be
I'm
careful.
not saying
Go ahead and
I'm
say it,
not
Doc Prince. Look,
I'm not
let me tell you what
I,
I see, Doc Prince.
I'm not
I see,
saying
I
I'm
see,
not
I see.
saying
Oh, you're not saying
wait,
what? I'm sorry.
hold on. I'm not saying you don't have um I'm not saying you don't have preferences. Okay,
Right.
let me say it that way, right? I'm
Okay.
not that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just like give at least before, this is me. I'm a teacher at heart, so I
Yeah.
like research and study.
Listen, look, I'm
Before I
reading.
make it before I make a decision, let me at least have the facts
Right.
before I make a decision. Let me have the facts.
Listen,
You don't
Doc,
even know. You don't even know what you right. Just
Doc,
get
Well,
the facts
Doc,
first. Okay,
Doc.
well,
but go ahead.
Go.
Can I say it's
Go,
okay?
go ahead, Randolph. Go ahead, Randolph. Go ahead.
Look, when I watch this Pop the Balloon, I noticed there's a herd mentality that kind of goes on. Why is it once you hear one balloon, all of a sudden 4 or 5 balloons pop up? Because let me tell you something, and I know, look, I'm gonna be real. I was at work, and a coworker said that ladies dress for men. And I told her, quite honestly, and I just was in my feelings that day. I said, I'm going to be honest with you. And I was being frank. I don't believe that women dress for men. I think
sure
my life changed when I took ego out of it and realized, this is an opinion though. It's not a fact. My opinion is that women mostly dress for other women.
Right.
That's correct.
They're trying to set up their own selves in that whole little pecking order. And she was like, no. And I kind of got and I'm gonna be honest with you. I think there was a little bit of like, I want to make it clear. I love men. You know what I mean? But I was like, in reality, I just don't think that. And when you go back to this Pop the Balloon, you could see there was a hint of the women were trying to act in solidarity.
Yes.
Right.
That's
with
it,
all
bro.
the other women.
Yeah.
It was like they'd already they don't even know each other, but they had already felt like
they are on one accord.
On one accord.
Well, I think we got the program. I think we got Pop the Balloon going now. Okay, so
bro,
all the comments are.
Listen,
I got Christina.
Read it, bro. I'm laughing
said,
at the comments, bro. I'm laughing at the comments.
Christina Carter said, "You just popped everybody's balloon with all smiley faces." Sybil Gale said, "It can be funny and hurtful, shallow." Stacy said, "You have to know your deal breakers." She said, "No, I gotta be able to like what I see. Sorry, I don't date short men, right?" Deal breakers. And then Christina says, "Fleshly." All right. Let's see. Here we go. Marie, welcome, Marie Yellup. She said, "But if he's not your type or too short," she said, "or too short."
But what if? Listen.
Why go any further? Too short balloon pop. Now,
listen,
Marie, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know.
Listen,
okay.
Look.
Wait. Tamisha, here you go. Tamisha, she said, "I love it. I hear you,
Randolph,
and I understand your standpoint. But man is not God. My potential may not be the same as God's potential for the individual. I'd rather allow myself to learn the individual through God and allow him to unfold that potential about them. And in that place, I can treat him accordingly. Wait, this good. I can treat him accordingly off of that potential, seeing through the eyes of God and not mine. Yes. And moving according to that is what I was saying. Amen. Amen. I agree with that. Okay. Sybil Gale said, "I dress for me, but hope the man likes it." Thank you for being honest, Sybil Gale.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Schroeder.
Look, listen. Only thing I'm gonna say is this. Listen, I know all of you guys. He has to look like something. I'm seeing people on saying he got to have all his teeth. I'm seeing people on there saying that he got to be tall. I'm seeing people on there saying that he got to have these factors and things of that nature. But let me tell you something, y'all. Let me tell you something. God will and can bless you in so many different ways, and I mean will bamboozle you. What you thought you wanted and what you thought you needed was nothing like what God really has in store for you. And I'm going to tell you something. Because I had a type. I had types. I had, perspective and certain things like that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we have this high expectation. And then if it doesn't come in the expectation, and the man can have all his teeth, the man can be tall, the man gonna be doing all that stuff looks good. I mean, listen, he can speak French. He doesn't
love you. He doesn't care about you.
He can speak French.
That's right.
He can speak Italian. I mean, he can have a lot of money. I mean, all that. I mean, he can be like speaking tongue. He can go to church. all that stuff. But guess what? He ain't compatible to you. Guess what? He ain't faithful to you. I bet you one thing, let's be real. If we check the board, we want faithful over anything. We want somebody to be faithful, more than loyal over anything, like out of anything. But it's like a lot of times we have these high expectations. And I'm gonna tell you something. You will actually miss your blessing because and have you ever played a game or did something where you overthought something and you missed something and you couldn't go back to fix it? It was over. It was it. You had if you had a selection of what was perfect or ideal, you missed it and you could not go back to fix it. And that's what's wrong with us because we've been trying to look for this high expectation. I don't put these people see. Ain't nobody want to hear all this. Look at the comments.
Right. I know.
Listen,
I know.
they don't want to hear this. They don't want to hear all this. But let me tell you something. It's true though. It's true. Listen, that six pack, the brother may have a little bit of belly. Why y'all quiet? Like what? Listen.
Yeah.
Why are people quiet, Doc? Randolph. Why are people quiet?
Yeah,
the brother might have a belly for real. You feel me?
He might have a keg instead of a six pack. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. He may have a kid. He may be like 4 months. You feel me? But at the same time, though, will he treat you right and with a little bit of motivation? Listen, because I know a brother. He's in the social media and he goes viral all the time. Workout the brother's a guru, right? He was heavy set and all that stuff. No one even thought about this dude. Wife was like, listen, and you know what? He worked out and lost all of that weight, and the brother is cut and everything. So you never know what comes out of it. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's the blessings of God. God blesses you in so many different ways. You feel what I'm saying? Yes, it would look nice if they shiny and you got the woman in the right place, you got the man in the right place for real. You know what I mean? But it doesn't work like that at times. So, listen, it doesn't. Listen, this I was saying earlier. I said sometimes certain things is a process. You want a man to be right there. Ooh, I want God to bless me like my sister, my best friend over there. Listen, no. Sometimes you got to be a late bloomer. Sometimes you got to be the person in the back, you know what I mean, dealing with the sheep. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just works like that, you know, because you may be ego driven, and I'm gonna say it like this, and some folk is ego driven, man, or image driven. It's like I gotta look good in front of my friends. I gotta be presentable and good in front of whoever, and we gotta a lot of have to be cut down and cut off and humble ourselves literally, because then you're living for people, and it's like what makes you happy. You know what I mean? May not necessarily be what makes somebody else happy. You understand what I'm saying? But look, I digress. Go ahead, brothers.
Yeah.
I got some comments I just want to read.
Okay. Oh boy.
I'm ready. I'm ready for him. I'm ready now.
Stacy said, Stacy English said, keeping yourself groomed is not a high expectation. Then she says, I need to be on this panel, and laughing emojis. Let's see. Faithful Karen, welcome, Faithful Karen. She says, say that again, Apostle. Christina Carter says, true. Tamisha Goolsby, she says, I can't do a too short man. I can't. I'm 5'6.5" and like heels. I can't do it. But he might like to talk. But anyway, we're gonna leave that alone. All right. Christina Carter says, tell it, Dad. Celeste Pickney, welcome, Celeste Pickney. She says, speak the truth. Stacy says, we can work with belly. Okay. Civil Gale says, I truly want a Christ bride man, but I also must be a bride Christ woman. Amen. I'm right there with you. Amen. All right. Stacy says, once again, let me see. Yeah, some women like belly. Tamisha Gosby says, I can deal with some fluff. Christina Carter says, amen. Oh, here we go. Stacy says, I have a friend who loves her husband's weight. That's her. Tamisha says, we need women on this panel. Christina Carter says, let go and let God. Stacy says, I'm single, so I digress. Celeste Pickney says, Apostle, you are speaking the truth. All I'm going to add to that is it was intentional to have a panel. At least Dr. Schroeder wanted to have a panel of men because a lot of times we never hear the man's view of relationships. We only hear the
Absolutely.
woman's view. And what I've realized in speaking with a lot, I have I'm going to say a few
Right.
female friends that I have close relationship with.
Hmm.
And what I realized in that's healthy to have
Absolutely.
because what you realize is uh, a woman does not think like a man. We
Yes, sir.
process differently. We see things differently. It's
That's
not
right.
the same.
That's right.
So, and a lot of times this goes back to my original statement, what we said the last broadcast. And I asked the question. Um, are you willing to listen?
Mm. Hmm.
Sometimes a man is talking, and I'm just going to be honest. He doesn't choose you because you're like Vashti. You don't listen.
Ah.
So
Ah.
he knows you're going to do what you want to do.
Ah.
And now, please understand, that's just one comment in one frame
Ah.
from one perspective. That's not the whole of what I'm saying, but I'm using that because I'm saying that to speak about a type. There is a type that and this is what I was saying earlier, that you just want what you want, and that's not just for women. I'm just using it in that context.
Right.
We have men that are that way too, but I'm just saying, hey, I'm looking for deeper than your hair and your eyelashes, because when you take off your hair, you take off your eyelashes, you take off the girdle, you take off everything that you have to put together, because all that stuff is physical.
Yeah.
That's not you.
That's
That's
not
not
you.
you.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that, but all of that is not you.
That's
That's not
right.
substance.
That's right.
That's presentation.
Yeah.
That's
That's performance.
presentation. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
just that. But to get to know you, that's a
Mm.
whole that's a whole different
Come on,
process.
Doc.
yeah,
And
it,
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. That's what I'm speaking. I can only speak as a man. Okay. That's what a lot of men are looking for. They're looking for substance.
Mm.
well, yeah, because we got to think also, how did we get here? And I think how we got here, if you look at the commercial world that we live in, say a natural man and a natural woman want to hook up. And before that man is ready to approach that woman, okay, all of a sudden a commercial pops up, you know, uh, for like deodorant or whatnot. And it says that, so now this guy's got to, do the sniff test or whatnot. Oh, crap. Before I can talk to her, I need to go buy deodorant. And then before you get the deodorant, get whatever, before you can take the next advance, you'll be like, oh, wait a minute now. I got, my threads ain't right. You notice that everybody who's approaching a lady got, nice threads. What I'm saying is, in the commercial world, like, everything is geared toward marketing against your vulnerabilities and your weaknesses and your
Yes.
insecurity.
Yes.
And so most of the market driven world that we're in, there's a subtle bit of anxiety that is artificially created to stimulate commerce.
Ooh, that's good. That's
So
good, brother.
so that's natural. That goes into advertising. That's, or else it wouldn't work. They have to create create need where it doesn't even exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So after a while, now you have, just before a woman or a man can even take the first advance, they have to be full of all this artificiality. They have to make sure their hair is on right, you know, make sure, you know what I mean?
You said that right. You said that right. You make sure their hair is on right. You said that
Right.
right. That was accurate.
Okay.
That was accurate.
Okay. Or whatnot. just before they even utter a word. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and this is not even without even not based on actually knowing what a man or what a woman wants,
Right.
but on the idea.
The idea.
You know what I mean? And they
Can
don't even know where
I say this real quick, Randolph?
came from.
Can I say this real quick? And I love having this conversation. This another just kind of off. I'm just using an example. This is one conversation. You know, especially with black men. Most black men love for black women to have natural hair. They love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
Mm-hmm.
They love and it not just natural, but also in a lot of cases short.
Right.
Because it brings out the best in you. I can't tell you how many that I would never whip. I ain't going out the house like that. Because once again, because if you ask, and here's the thing, here's the listening skill. If you ask me,
oh my,
what do you? Okay, and then y'all women, y'all know where I'm getting ready to go. You know where I'm getting ready to go.
Okay.
What would, honey? What would you like to eat? He tells you. See, men are simple. They're black and white.
Simple.
Yeah.
You know what? I'd love a steak. I'd love some potatoes, and on the side, let's just do some Brussels sprouts.
Do some Brussels sprouts. You know what I'm saying?
He just told you what he wanted, because you asked him what he wanted.
Right.
Then you persist to tell him what you would like to do instead.
That's right.
That's right.
Now I'm just using basic conversation.
Yeah.
So now the man has to decide: do I reiterate what I just said, or do I accept you're not listening to me? So you know what? I'm going to be quiet and just say, well, you know what, honey? What do you want to do? I was thinking we can go get some seafood. I was thinking we can do this, and I was thinking about getting that dessert that you really don't need. I was thinking we can get a banana split, and we could go. And so the man finally says, you know what? Okay, let's do that. So you get to the restaurant, and now, well, honey, you don't seem like you're very hungry. No, I'm okay. Yeah, we're here. We're here. Why? Because what did he do? He surrendered his will to yours. See, and what you don't understand is he's covering you. What you don't understand is he loves you.
Yeah.
What you don't understand is he puts your needs before his.
Yes.
But you see that as we went out and he wasn't happy with my decision. You missed, baby, you missed the whole point. But see, this goes back to once again communication.
Yeah.
Understand, and I want to use something. I'm using something lighthearted and superficial. I want to use something lighthearted and superficial, but it addresses the point and the principle that we as men try to consistently relay.
Right.
Okay, to women.
I'm sorry. Doc Prince, I like your point, because the example that you made, notice what happened in the hypothetical that you set up. In the hypothetical you set up, she did not like the fact that it became obvious to her and him that she was actually domineering. She didn't mind being domineering, but not to the extent that her cover was blown.
I got you. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. That's good.
And you know what it reminds me of? I remember a brother one time told me, he said in slavery time, you could get whipped if you didn't say that was your master. But after slavery ended, if basically he's trying to say you still had masters, you still had masters. But this time around, if you point out the master, you get whipped for that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because nobody's, you got a master, but you're not supposed to acknowledge you have one. You know what I mean? And in that situation, it's interesting because it's like for some, I'm only saying for some ladies. For some ladies, they like the image and the idea of being in the dominion of a man, but wink wink, not really. Okay? That's just supposed to be the
Ooh,
facade. Okay?
ooh.
But make no mistake, I'm running things, but when we stepping out, they'll, they'll, you
That's
know what I
good.
mean? You see what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
you know, and so
So
that
so 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 in other words, it has to be another level of. It has to be for a woman to a degree. Another level, obviously, we look at it from a spiritual term, dying. Another raising level um,
oh, wait,
of understanding and a
oh, wait,
classman,
oh,
a
oh, I,
person moving into another level of class.
okay, no, I need to be careful. I need to be careful. I'm almost like, I'm stating, excuse me, a reality that exists. I'm not,
Right.
I don't want to say as if that, I'm trying to create an idea of where she should be.
Right.
I'm just saying that is just, um a state of affairs. You know what I mean?
No, I know what you
So
mean.
to speak.
No, I
Um
totally know what you mean.
because because I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I remember it being said there's some person that came up with a theory. I think his name was Briffault. There was something called Briffault's law. It states that the ideal mate was a male and a female. But if you brought down the stature of, say, this of a male, right? You know, he becomes equal to anything. He could be replaced by a government, like maybe in the form of welfare. He could be replaced by another female. He could be replaced by a toy. He could
Mm-hmm.
be replaced
Mm-hmm.
by any kind of a surrogate husband in the form of a son. He could be replaced by, whatever. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, so, I mean, I say that to say that, because the whole idea is that, um, the, it's almost like, I almost look at things almost like maybe societally we may have digressed
I think so.
because
Yeah, that's good.
because the biological family in nature is like female child, and
Mm-hmm.
the male is like only a sperm donor, like a lion. He just basically protects rights to access to sex and territory. But in terms of, not the human family, the nuclear family, a man has a very more dynamic role. You see what I'm saying? But if you break the family down, it just comes to, and that's not just, I mean, depending on the climate, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's because it's the something in the environment has caused it. Like, for instance, polygamy. Polygamy in history wasn't, it was something that was a result of warfare.
Right.
When
Right.
you had wars where they were decimating the male population, and it came down, and now you had this ginormous ratio of male to female that was like, you got like literally, it was like 1 to 5. The only way that a woman could have it, could ever dream of having, they had to conceive a situation where men could have more than one wife in order to repopulate the nation.
Right.
It wasn't out of, this desire to just, I need, to meet sexual desires or some need or something like that.
Right.
So what I'm saying
Right.
is, I'm getting a little bit, whatever, but I'm just saying we have very unique circumstances that have put women in very unique set of circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
particularly women that occupy the lower socioeconomic strata, and in light of certain things in our recent history.
Mm-hmm.
So, that caused the low marriage rates, high divorce rates, and things
Mm-hmm.
like that have changed the culture for women, and that have made men appear less useful, less important, and
Let's
less
be real.
valued.
That's the truth. Like,
Right.
And you know what I
And
mean?
yeah, and that's the Nate, right. And I want to make sure we got back, because a lot of the responses are in relation to that, what we're talking about, just the we're talking about the expectation of women and the expectation of men, basic communication, understanding, just kind of examples we gave earlier. So there were a lot of responses to that initial conversation. I didn't want to give to everybody.
I
So
may have
we're
lost
kind
some
of,
people going that way, but
yeah. So Yumika says, she's asking a question. She says, is that in real life? Most women I know and who I was raised by will cook whatever that man wants. Well, I think that's a certain type of woman. I think that's not every woman. But that
Yes,
is a certain
that's
type
a
of
certain
woman.
type. Right.
And once again, we got to look at it contextually, um, in relation to, are you talking about dating? Or are you talking about marriage? Or are you talking about what? There's a context to that. Victorious Eve said, "Whoa, that was good." Sybil Gale says, "Learning, not a problem. I can keep it simple." Christina said, "Listen to hear, not to respond." Victorious Eve said, "Good example, even if you was just using food." Umika Brandon says, "I do believe a lot of men compensate to satisfy us." Yes, that is true. Tamisha Goolsby says, "Yes, that is good." Stacy says, "Okay, unofficial, you talking good." All right. Christina Carter says 100, 100, 100. Let's see. Stacy says, "Women like to control, point blank, just like Eve."
Ouch.
Thank you for the honesty and the integrity.
Thank you.
Thank you. That means a lot
Yeah.
as a man. That means a lot here. Okay. Um, Sybil Gale says theory, not application. Sybil Gale also says
Oh, I
not
like that.
so in God's plan.
Yes.
Stacy says societal influences. Absolutely. And that's what Brother Randolph was alluding to. Last two, let me see, two comments. Yes, last two, well, three. Okay. It says, Victoria C says, a woman that doesn't understand her man's headship or how to let him lead, ding, 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 or how to let him lead without losing herself is
Hey.
a woman that lacks spiritual maturity and alignment. Christina Carter says the enemy has distorted the family structure, ding, 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 as God intended it to be. But he is restoring the family structure, praise God. Stacy says marriage is beautiful. Lynn J. Hey, bless you. Linda Martinez, God bless you. She says blessings. Victoria C. Final statement says, furthermore, a woman or queen must understand how to allow and let her king ascend and ascension and leadership flow and vice versa.
Right.
Amen. Go ahead, Dr. Schroeder.
No, I concur. I really believe that when it comes down to it, we have to take responsibility. Well, the females to a degree, also have to take responsibility for the substitution of of the fragrance of a man's uh, responsibilities. To a certain standpoint, I believe is necessary. Um, and what I mean by responsibility, let me just make it a little clear. We substitute for the man. Like some females, they said, well, the reason that I went to the opposite sex because the man lacked something in terms of it, even though that woman or that person that they had transferred over to had the formality of a man, which substitute. So like I'm using, we talk about the government, be like, hey, I trade food stamps and child
Mhm.
support for a man. You feel what I'm saying?
Mhm.
The man can't be in my house because so we have these things that is in place that kind of pulls away from the man's origin and the man's structure that supposed to be dominant within the confine of the household's structure. So this is why.
Right, but the core and everything, and once again, so this, we have these conversations as men all the time,
Yeah,
right? So, but for us as men, it's like, but the core is still self.
yeah,
If the person is doing what they're doing, because once again, that's the whole point of it. They just want what they want.
they want what they
It's
want.
not it. They just want what they want, and it's
Yeah,
like that's not a relationship.
that's the appetite.
And then it's like you have to be present in the relationship.
Right.
a flea market.
That's good.
I'm just pick. It's not a buffet. I want this, and I want this, and I want this. And so
Right.
if you approach a relationship from that perspective, then you're going to get what you paid for, because you can't be in a relationship by yourself.
You can't. Right.
Yeah.
This whole idea of independence is like you can't be in a relationship by yourself.
Come on, bro.
You just
Yeah.
can't. And so the healthy perspective. So the question is, what do I bring to the table to
Ooh.
add
Serve.
to your life?
That's deep.
Because now, let me take another natural example. Okay, in the context of relationship through marriage, you hear women say this. When I first got with my husband, man, he he did okay with the dressing, but after we got together, you understand? Well, baby, here, wear this. I would love to see you in this. Okay, well, I don't do colors. I like black and gray and blue. See, in a man's mind, that's color. Okay, that's color. All right.
Right.
And then he comes in, but his wife is like, well, try this, try this style, try this form, try these glasses, try this shirt,
Right.
try this,
Right.
and now he looks completely different.
He looks different.
And once again, it's why, because here's the point. I want to bring out the best in you. Now, I'm just using this as a natural
That's a good example.
And it's no different from the wife, the husband to the wife.
Right.
Babe, I would love to see you, wear your hair like that. And so this is the first. So this is basic stuff. Can we see submission on that level?
On that, and that's the basic. That's basic level. Like,
and that's foundational.
Yeah,
right?
that's, and you talking about I think the young lady was saying, I want the man to listen. I got to be able to listen to him. So if a man is saying to a certain degree, it's not to where, because a woman should never feel that she's losing herself by submitting to the idea of him suggesting something that could cause her to evolve or elevate.
Okay, because see, now you open it. That goes back to the other door we were opening, which is you got to know yourself.
You got to know yourself.
If you don't know yourself, then yes, that is the outcome.
That's the outcome. It's difficult. It is difficult because if you have to know yourself, and it has to be a love there, a love of understanding servitude to cause. Joseph, you about to say something?
Yeah, because look, man, look, I know this is gonna sound so simple. It might even sound cliche, but if you can see look, I believe that, but this is my belief though, this is opinion. I believe that my wife is a window to a whole nother side of myself.
You better say that, brother. Say that.
I really believe that.
Bro, that's powerful how you said that.
I really do believe this, because I'm going to tell you something. For instance, in disciplining our child, there were times I had to, being stern in a real quote unquote masculine sense, was not reaching my son. I had to employ her tactics. I had to bring my voice down. I may not even look at my son directly. I might be doing something and I'm talking to him, and I'm not looking at confrontation, or you know what I mean? Or I brought my tone down almost to the same tone she typically delivers, and I would get him to respond a little bit more to me.
Right.
So I had to. There are times I believe she's, I've given her the confidence to be more stern with him.
Come on, my brother.
To have more backbone. So what I'm saying is,
that's good.
The way I look, I think we've got something wrong. Like, I think we were literally born for each other. I really believe that
That's absolutely right.
a woman is giving us a chance to witness something innermost in ourselves we've never
Come
had a
on,
connection
Joe.
with, and we're giving them an opportunity to witness something that they haven't, but we just
Woo.
simply haven't crossed the threshold from a more superficial outlook on one another to more nuanced intellectual spiritual type things to even bear witness to that.
Joe, you killing it.
You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I
That Joe, no, Joe, listen, I am so concurring what you're saying, man, because we as men, we don't even realize that portion and part of us that was mysteriously prepared for us to engage, to understand, and to really cause us to appreciate the angle and layers about us that we didn't even know that we
yeah,
had.
but
Thank God for the no look, but the thing is, thank
yeah,
God, bro, for a woman of understanding and patient and willing.
yeah.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
For, for a woman of understanding,
Yeah,
but those I think what's going on where it's not happening as often because there's a lot of children today, they aren't bearing witness to very wholesome relationships that would give them models to be able to carry on in terms of a
oh,
tradition.
that's good.
A lot of social media is
That's good, bro.
substituting for that. So and when it really can't, okay, because there's no interaction with social media. It's just something that's just one directional. It's just
Yeah.
there's no human interaction with a media. Okay,
Yes.
so we're humans and we require touch and things that just you know, beyond what is digital. I don't know really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so we're losing certain things
Yeah.
in more
No, I totally understand. And another thing is to add on to that, the woman has to be whole and not broken. You understand?
yeah.
Like like like
Okay.
like to like to a degree, a man can still drink from the woman, but to a certain aspect, the woman has to faucet a type of expression, um, because a woman can be bitter, you know, and
Okay. I, I will have to I will make sure to meditate on that. I'll make sure to meditate on that. I will admit this, man. I remember, and I'm not talking about a woman. I'm going to talk about a man that I knew. I met this man one day on a job. He was in his I was very young at the time, and this man admitted to me that he never had a father in his life, and he was and for the things that he told me, it seemed like he had become the father he had never um he had never had
Never
to a
had.
son that he had. And I realized that this guy defied physics because he literally created something out of absolutely nothing. His father was not in his life, and I realized, like, dear God, and you know what motivated him? Every void he had as a child where he felt that a father should be there was the engine, was the inspiration to every little thing he did for his son.
that's powerful.
The emptiness
The
in him
emptiness, right, right, right.
Yes.
was giving him the instructions
My God,
to how to lead that child. And
that's
I'm sitting here, I couldn't understand what I was witnessing.
mm,
I had
mm.
dang, it was like a prophetic experience.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
could
yeah.
not I could not understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm struggling with what you said, because in some way his brokenness was in some way his I don't know, man. I think it's what you do with that brokenness. You know what I mean?
It was
That's good.
but here's what you're here this but this goes,
That's good,
we're
Joe.
just, I mean, it's a circle of the original conversation. You have to be present enough to know yourself. And you have to understand where he began. He began in a place of vulnerability and honesty.
That's good, Joe.
He so let's start with what you said. He recognized, I'm broken. In other words, there are some things that I'm missing out on. There are some things I did not have. So because he recognized that, he now could build. You can't fix a problem that doesn't exist. You can't be a solution to something that you're in denial of. So you have to be honest. Is there an issue?
Right.
You know, and so you have to first recognize. He recognized that. The moment he recognized it, that's the moment he could grow. And but that principle that's for all of us. Nobody comes into a relationship, any relationship, perfect in the sense of being completely whole, though there is a level of wholeness within yourself. But understanding that each and every relationship, each and every person that you come in contact with, when we develop relationships in life, why are people in our lives? People are in our lives to help us to grow. And if we can't understand that on a basic level, listen, I'm not going to think like you.
That's right.
And you're not going to think like me.
Come on.
And so when I come again, the scripture says a brother, I'm not trying to preach, but it's relative. Okay. So it says a brother is born for adversity. In other words, people that I'm in close community and close relationship with, I'm just using it as an analogy. So a brother is born for adversity. It's the people that are closest to me that are going to have the deepest effect on me in the area of my growth. It's the people that are closest to me that are going to have the greatest power to challenge me. No, let me use the right terminology, to challenge me and to cause me to think differently about myself, about the world around me, and even about my awareness of God in my own life and in the earth. See, it's the people. I love what you, and I wanted to go back to your example you gave, Randolph. You were talking about raising your son. You see, you could have been right. You don't tell me how to raise my son. I know how to raise my son.
Right.
But notice the principles. As soon as you became open,
that's true.
As soon as you became open, you realized it wasn't that she was wrong. It was just different.
It was different.
Yeah.
It was different.
And this is what I mean when I say sometimes you can turn away the very thing that God has brought to you to be a blessing to you because you don't recognize this is an opportunity for you to grow. And this is why, and as long as you possess a checklist, and this is not just women, I'm just saying in general, as long as you have a checklist, okay, well, got it here, got it there, got it. Okay, well, now I don't care for that. But that thing that you don't care for may be the very thing that you need for your own development and growth.
So the question is, Doc, do they really want it though? Do they really desire deliverance? Like, you know what I mean?
That's
like,
where I'm going.
Like,
go ahead. I'm gonna say it this, since we're talking about relationship. You know, bad analogy, but it works. Tyler Perry, he said, "Why did I get married?" Right. So my question is, do you want to be married? Because if you want to be married, you're gonna have to be open, because it's going to require openness. It's going to require humility.
That's good.
It's going to require submission. So if that's not foundational, maybe you don't want to be married.
Come on, brother.
Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you don't want to be in relationship. See, because we got to get to the core of the real issue. If
Yeah.
you really want to
Talk
be
about it.
in relationship,
Talk about it.
then you have to
Talk
be
about
willing to be humble.
That's
You have to
it,
be
bro.
willing to be open.
Yes.
You even in your pain, even in your trauma. Okay, yeah, I went through this. Yeah, I struggled through this. Yeah, I had bad this. Yeah, this happened to me. But now you're saying, but I want to be in relationship.
Right.
Guess what? You're gonna have to step out of the corner of fear. You're gonna have to step out of that corner of trauma.
Come on,
You're gonna
bro.
have to step out of that guardedness.
Come on, brother.
Listen, there's a lot of potential women. There are a lot of women that say they want to be married, but when a man sees them, he doesn't see an open door. He sees a wall.
Woo.
And so and this is what women need to
Wow.
understand. There is no man.
Yeah.
Listen, a man is a warrior.
Mm.
When he goes out from his house is his castle. When he leaves his house, he's going out to war.
He going to
Yeah.
war.
When he comes home, he's fought all the enemies of his world.
Every
When
bit
he
of him.
comes home, he's not trying to have a war with you.
Come on,
That's
brother.
right.
Teach
And
that,
right.
man.
and so he has to count the cost.
Yeah.
If it's going to cost me more to be at war in my house, in my own house, in the place of peace, I'm not coming home to fight.
Mm.
I want to come home to peace.
And the bruh.
Once again, this I'm just being honest, and I'm not talking about. Let me reiterate.
Yeah.
Because I know I got it. I'm not saying there are broken women on here, but let me talk to the broken women. I'm not talking to all women. I'm
Right.
saying there are women
Mhm.
who, and I'm saying this as a man, that sometimes what you want is not what you need.
Exactly.
And every opportunity becomes an opportunity for growth. And this is what Brother Randolph is emphasizing. So we have to come into a space open and say, you know what, I'm willing. And here's the third part, which is really the first part. I'm open to trust.
To trust.
And this is the
that's
scariest
good. Yeah,
place.
that's the
You
truth.
mean I have to trust? I have to trust someone other than myself? Absolutely. I first put my trust in God. And if I'm connected with him properly, then he gives me the ability to trust others.
Come on, brother.
See, I've learned a long time ago. This is my last statement. I'll shut up. All right. But I learned a long time ago, I'm not smart enough to choose my own friends.
Wow.
I have to.
I like that, though. I like that.
I thought I was really good with it, back in the day, when I was young. But I realized I'm not smart enough to choose my own friends.
I love it.
I have to trust God.
Yeah.
And God is the one that has to say, no, there are situations and there are relationships and there are people and there are times, and it's an ongoing process because we're human, right? And we have to say, I don't want to, I don't know if I want to open this up right here. And God is saying, no, open up, because once again, I have to trust. But that's the vulnerability. That's the humility.
Yes.
That's the only way I can grow. And sometimes the very things we want to avoid are the very things we need to help us to grow and to mature and to be better. So Randolph, your example with your wife, that was perfect.
That was
because
good.
once again, not only did you grow, but like you said, she grew. It motivated her to look at things. Maybe I need to, maybe I'm too soft.
But I feel that men and women are born for each other. There's something put there that we are to learn from one another. And I like the example you made of, my gosh, the example of a man needs to see an open door, not a wall.
I love that.
Because I really did love that, because what I saw in that is, because I had heard it read, I'd seen it, I had read it before, where until man meets with a woman, his life is really just really self-absorbed.
Right.
But the moment you get in contact with a woman, you've literally been cleaved to eternity, because this woman opens the gate to successive generations of people that
Perfect.
will follow you
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
moment you come into contact. Until that point, your life is a very finite life
Right.
from birth to the grave. But she opens the window of
She
opportunity.
defines it. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the gateway to successive generations. That's, and a woman that's a wall doesn't equate legacy.
It-
There's no fruitfulness in it.
Come on,
It
brother.
stops right there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as people, even as men, we have to know if we're giving off the energy, if we're a wall to her or she's a wall
That's
to
right.
us, she feels like it ends here. It doesn't feel like it's a new beginning to something that's gonna tie us to eternity.
Right.
Look, I was in the room. I was I was I was I was present when my uncle passed away, and he was told it's okay. You can let go.
Mm.
We will be okay.
Mm.
And you know, you know, and he passed. And I, in my own imagination, feels like he felt his job is done. He'd at the time he had passed, he'd already seen the beginning of what now I've come to see of a multitude of families that have spawned from him.
Mm.
Okay. And I see the little piece of what he and my aunt put in all of those that have spawned from that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You will start off as a couple. You may end your life with a village and maybe later with a kingdom.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of successive, things. You know what I mean? And you know, and you know,
That's deep.
that's
No, I,
yeah.
that explains a lot.
Hmm.
When a man understands his his place, and when he found that place, the woman literally signs off on it. I like the way that you said that it's okay. We're going to be fine. That's first of all, it shows that man's call over his life as a covering over his house, but it also shows the confirmation and pull and push that a woman helps that man as well. Like
Hmm.
obviously a man helps a woman, but that woman really helps that man, and that man becomes a man when he is defined by the confirmation of his wife. There's no other person, like what Doc said, like we can fight the whole world. We can go out there and war and all, but come home and not is nothing solidified to make that man feel that it's okay. I'm confirmed. A lot of women want to be confirmed by their husband, but a man needs to be confirmed by his wife, to make him feel like a man and make him feel that he is worthy, right? A woman has to feel worthy, man, but a man has to feel honored, as well, and feel that type of confirmation. And it says a lot, man. It says a lot about both parties, about both commissions and responsibilities. But y'all, listen. I know we can keep going, but we gotta go. And
Hmm.
this is, man. Listen, this is good. This is good. This is some good stuff, y'all. Matter of fact, um, I would like for you guys, the viewers, the ones that's watching, if you guys can, leave on the contact session, because I want to be able to hear some ideas of our next discussion. Because I want to include this. This is where I feel like we can kind of include as well, because I really feel that it is important for us to understand that yes, it's good for us to have a dialogue, but it's good that the community is able to feast off of this healthy, powerful conversation. And so, yes, if you guys have any other, additional structure of questions that would probably be beneficial for us, you can either inbox me, you can even leave some comments on the comment section tonight. But I feel that this is definitely fruitful. Like these are my brothers. Y'all listen. Y'all had my engine's burning tonight, man. I love it. I loved every bit of this conversation, man. It was very, very,
I did too.
and just to hear the responses of the people was very, very good too. So, with that being said, you guys, anybody have any final last words before we conclude and close?
Wow. Wow. This was a man, just a great podcast conversation. Yes. I'll definitely, it leaves me a lot to really reflect on.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. So, I really cherish the brotherhood of what we had thus far, and I look forward to doing it again.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yes. Likewise. Amen. Amen. Brother, my brother Doc. Any
Amen.
final?
I concur with everything my brother Randolph said, and just a word to everyone that's on tonight. Just continue to get whole, get healed, and be all that you can be by allowing God to process you completely and thoroughly so that you can be who you're supposed to be in the space of relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you all, we appreciate you for tuning in. Thank you for y'all participation tonight on our podcast. And this is definitely is very, very exciting about how we're structuring this. We're setting up also on Spotify right now. We already have an infrastructure set up. We're going to be putting on other different streams as well. But you guys, this is just the beginning. Follow us on Facebook, also Instagram, also YouTube, you guys, and also Spotify. So, but other than that, you guys, great conversation, fruitful conversation. I don't know, we may even go in another different direction and angle even with this conversation, but who knows? But
you're gonna get some challenges. I saw somebody put up part 3, 4, and 5, so I have some challenges.
Okay. Gosh, that could be a seed for something else in another podcast. Hey, bring it on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hey, look, I'm trying to grow. I don't know about y'all. I would like to be checked on anything like we say. I mean, gosh.
Oh man, it's all about growth, man. At the end of the day.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. I love to learn. Yeah. Trust me.
Absolutely, man. That's what it's all about. So I appreciate the impartation and even the time. All right, you guys. Until next time, you guys, y'all take care. Have a good one.
Bye.
Echo Unplugged.